Imagine a house that is so terrifyingly haunted that no one can live there. What kinds of events would produce such daunting presences? The ruins of Summerwind Mansion are found deep within the woods along the shores of West Bay Lake in Wisconsin. Formerly known as Lamont Mansion, there have been many rumours and local legend claiming that the house's array of spectres and hauntings have driven out every family that has ever tried to live there. Summerwind was constructed in the early 20th century and was first used as a fishing lodge at the lake's edge. Whether the land it was built on was originally haunted or the hauntings developed after the mansion's construction is not really known, but for some reason the house experienced paranormal disturbances from its very beginning. In 1916, US Secretary of Commerce Robert Lamont purchased the property for use as a vacation home for his family. However, from the very moment the Lamont family moved into their new retreat, they began experiencing unusual occurrences, and what they intended as a peaceful holiday haven slowly became a nightmare. While their servants regularly complained about witnessing spectral presences, this did not seem to deter the family as they tolerated the bizarre phenomena for the next 15 years. During that time, family members seemed to enjoy sharing their strange stories with their friends and neighbours. They claimed to have sighted objects moving by themselves, heard unexplained noises emanating from empty rooms, and seen shadowy figures moving from room to room. However, after many years of the family accepting these paranormal activities, one evening in mid-1930s, one particular entity decided to make himself known. Lamont would later describe a terrifying experience whilst dining one night with his wife in the kitchen. Suddenly, the basement door flew open by itself, and the pair watched in horror as the apparition of a man slowly floated up from the basement and materialized before their eyes. The apparition seemed so real that Lamont initially believed they had an intruder, and he quickly seized his gun and fired 2 shots. But the bullets had no impact on the mysterious entity, passing straight through it and leaving bullet holes in the basement door. Despite the spirit's speedy return down into the cellar, it seems that at this stage the family had finally had enough. After enduring the many years of unexplainable events, this was the last straw for the Lamont family, who fled the house, vowing that they would never return. Summerwind Mansion then stayed vacant for many years, until the 1940s when the Kiefer family finally purchased it, also with the intention of using it as their holiday home. They also decided to rent out the large property to other holidaymakers. It is unknown whether Kiefer himself had witnessed unusual phenomena after first purchasing the property, but whenever he provided the keys to renters for their inspection, he was loath to venture inside the house himself and left them to it. 30 years on, the mansion again went up for sale in the 1970s, when it was bought by a family called the Hinshaws, and we know that the hauntings continued for the new owners. When Arnold and Ginger Hinshaw first spotted the house, Ginger was immediately besotted by the historic pile and determined to buy it, claiming that she even felt sorry for the dilapidated mansion. The Hinshaws moved into the residence with their 6 children, making admirable plans to restore the neglected home to its former glory. Unfortunately, the reputation of the paranormal phenomena that had occurred over the years was well known within the community, and the family had difficulties finding a local contractor willing to undertake any major work. Those renovators who did venture inside would leave halfway through projects, declaring they could not work in a house where so many bizarre things happened daily. There were repeated reports of electrical problems, vanishing tools, and windows opening and closing by themselves, so that the owners could hardly keep track of the occurrences. Not to be deterred by the disappearing workforce, the Plucky family resolved to restore the house themselves. However, it did not take long for Ginger and her children to start to sense that they were being watched in the house. Then eerie noises were heard coming from empty rooms, just as previous owners had experienced, while furniture and objects would move around of their own accord. One afternoon, Ginger was shocked to see an apparition of a woman appearing before her in the dining room. On another day, Arnold discovered a hidden cavity while he was busy painting a bedroom closet. He tried to crawl into the tight space himself, but finding it too small, he decided to send in his youngest daughter, Mary, to investigate what the strange cavity contained. Mary was able to crawl inside, but was instantly horrified at what she found. It was a collection of bones, including a human skull with tangled black hair still attached. Mary backed out screaming. Not wishing to unsettle the remains, the family immediately sealed up the space without notifying the authorities. A couple of months later, Arnold became curious and decided to re-examine the mysterious bones. He reopened the space and was shocked to find that the bones had vanished. Arnold then started to become tormented by the resident spirits and found it difficult to sleep, with chronic insomnia soon kicking in. He became increasingly disturbed and started playing his Hammond organ in the middle of the night, saying that his music kept the house demon at bay. Arnold's life began to fall apart as he suffered what is commonly known as a nervous breakdown. He lost his job and his marriage was soon in disarray. Ginger was also overwhelmed by stress due to the unsettling events of the previous months and considered taking her own life. The family were now in a state of complete chaos, wherein their dream of renovating the house had become a living nightmare. Although at this stage they had only been in the house for 6 months, in that short time their stay had destroyed the family. Ginger and the children left the house and went to live with her parents, and Arnold departed soon after, leaving Summerwind Mansion abandoned once more. Surprisingly though, despite Ginger having told her parents the terrifying sequence of events that had taken place in the mansion and the horrific ordeal her family had suffered, this had obviously not deterred her father, Raymond Bober. A few years later, Bober decided to take over the property and finish the renovations with the intention of turning the mansion into a restaurant and inn. However, the negative energy in the house showed no signs of subsiding when, during the construction of the restaurant, Ginger's brother claimed to have witnessed an apparition on the 2nd floor. Soon after, when on the 1st floor, he reported having seen what appeared to be a vivid replay of the Lamont confrontation in the kitchen, where he heard gunshots and even smelled gunpowder. When Bober finally managed to convince builders and contractors to start work on the house, they complained that their tools and blueprints kept going missing. Even more bizarre, they claimed that dimensions in several rooms seemed to change as they worked, never matching the blueprints or measurements that had only just recorded. Unable to persevere with the strange phenomena, many workers quit the project, refusing to even enter the house again. Rather than feeling deterred by what tradies had reported, Bober became fascinated by the paranormal activity in the house and tried to communicate with the spirits by means of a Ouija board. He even underwent a hypnosis session in further attempts to make contact with them. He later relayed what had occurred while he was under hypnosis, describing a metaphysical journey down to the basement of the property, where he uncovered the deed to the house. He claimed that it had been signed by a man called Jonathan Carver, who was an 18th century explorer. Bober was led to understand that Carver was the frontiersman who had not only built Summerwind, but also owned, in the early days, a third of Wisconsin's land. After the hypnotherapy session, Bober naturally searched the basement, but he was never able to locate the document, and eventually, as for the previous owners, his project was completely abandoned. In 1979, Bober wrote a book entitled The Carver Effect, A Paranormal Experience, describing the supernatural events he had encountered during his time at Summerwind Mansion. The house was once again deserted and remained vacant for many years until it was purchased in 1986. This time, 3 investors were hoping to change the mansion's fortunes for the better. However, yet again, bizarre occurrences began scaring away any help the property owners were able to arrange. Many of those involved reported seeing random furniture appearing in pictures, room shapes and dimensions suddenly changing, and even ominous shadows in full view of observers. This new upgrade was finally doomed when, during a storm in 1988, the house was struck by lightning and burned to the ground, although there are still strong doubts as to whether this was the actual cause of the fire. Today, all that remains of Summerwind Mansion are the stone chimneys and foundation, with nature reclaiming most of the land. But the notoriety of the property lives on, attracting locals and paranormal investigators who explore the house ruins and its eerie surrounds. According to those who have wandered around the property, the house may be gone, but its mysterious spirits are as restless as ever.